Raised in the Underground. Written by Social Nobody. Read by The Viridian Ghost. Just letting you guys know, even though this is a one-shot, I might break this up into 2 parts since it is 7,000 words.
Viridian from the future here. I was editing this video when I realized how much you can hear my birds screaming in the background. So please, just ignore them. I tried to edit them out as much as possible, but you can only do so much. Anyway, enjoy the fic.
Let's get into the summary. Summary. The 5 times the UA staff realized that there was more to Yagi Toshinori than simply being a blubbering buffoon, and by extension, realizing that Midoriya Izuku was more than a stupid and sacrificial, innocent little child. And the one time they got answers. 1. Today, Aizawa-sensei started with a sadistic grin, carefully writing on the board, we will be talking about stealth. The class dipped into murmurs of confusion and worry, purely at his expression. While many of you are going into daylight or rescue heroics, he continued, beginning to write some bullet points on the board. There will be missions that require you to use underground tactics. Stealth is applied in both fields, however. The final dot point, and the class could see the board. The stealth game. A 3-hour-long test within ground beta. Everyone will be hunters and seekers. Quirks are permitted. The man looked almost gleeful. Well, as close to gleeful as someone like Aizawa-sensei could look. A few hands raised around their class, and the dark eyes scanned the room before vaguely nodding in Yamamo's direction. Will this be today's assignment? She asks with a curious expression. She looked rather excited for this project. Several around the room murmured their agreements with varying levels of excitement. A few within the class looked excited about the assignment, namely people like Jiro and Shoji, who would likely fall into underground heroics. Others looked less excited, but weren't willing to argue with the majority of the class. It will, he confirmed. We'll be doing this today and tomorrow. We'll discuss how you did and do notes. But practice experience will do you much better. Hushed murmurs broke out again, and as a wide grin splintered the teacher's face. Everyone, head to the locker rooms and get your uniforms on. I'll explain the rules more when you get back. No one dared to argue, everyone just heading out. We so got this, Jiro grinned to Hagakure, who smiled back. Our quirks are perfect for this. Yeah. No one noticed a slightly too sharp smile on Midoriya's face as they headed out. Whenever everyone was gathered, each student was given a camera that hung loosely around their neck. Your aim is to get pictures of as many classmates as you can without being spotted, Aizawa explained. You will not be able to directly attack one another for this test, nor can you take their cameras. The only way to win this game is to be smart. I hope that this will show you all how difficult stealth can be. Attacking another player loses you the game, as does losing your camera, however. He shot a glance to a certain electric acid duo whose reputation of losing their stuff preceded them, and they shrunk in on themselves. There will be a 15-minute grace period before you begin, and the 3 hours will start. You can use this time as you see fit. Keep in mind that this is not a team game. If I see that you are trying to cheat, you'll fail this test. You'll pass by keeping at least 20 points. You'll get a point for each picture you get, and lose 1 for getting caught. You will start with 19. The class called back their understanding with a loud, "Yes, Sensei," as they nodded. The cameras will show you the time you have left. Your time starts. He looked down at his watch. the grin returning tenfold as he clicked the top button. Now. And the class broke. They nearly trampled over one another to escape the small room as Aizawa just snorted at their suffering and turned on the screens. The game begins. He didn't notice the gaze at the back of his head, sharply analyzing everything. The game was his. Click, click, click. Kirishima and Bakugo have been two of the easiest to spot, neither being quiet enough to keep others away from them. Bakugo had nearly been pulled from the test after Kirishima shouted again. Hey, Bakubro. Neither of them passed this test. Others didn't do too badly, but it was a struggle to hide from people like Jiro and Shoji. The only hint was the sound of a click of a camera that revealed they'd been caught. Jiro was about to snap as she kept around, ear jacks plugged into the ground. She found everyone, Hagakure included. She could hear the heartbeats of everyone. Everyone but Midoriya. She'd gotten pictures of 18 out of 19 students, but Midoriya still managed to elude her. She grit her teeth and closed her eyes. It didn't make sense. Of all people, he shouldn't be the one. Click. Her gaze snapped up. Camera raised in self-defense, but no one was there. She whipped around the room, hissing, "Who's there?" Silence. Unnerving silence. She hesitated before closing her eyes and taking a breath. It was probably just stress, right? The test ended without much fanfare. Everyone regathered into the room they started in, with hushed whispers of both boredom and excitement. Some people wanted to know how they did. Others wanted to win. Others wanted to know if they failed. "You didn't do as bad as I expected," Aizawa confessed, clicking around with his pointer. "We'll discuss in-depth notes tomorrow, but I'll start us off today." A click. Our bottom players were Bakugo, Kirishima, Sato, Mineta, and Aoyama. All of you had under 5 points due to being consistently spotted. The only pictures you got were of each other, with Bakugo also getting a picture of Sero. I expected better. A few of them shrunk in at the criticism, while Bakugo just snarled wordlessly. Ida, Ojiro, Denki, Sero, Tokoyami, you managed to get a few pictures, but you got caught too much and docked points. You're on the lower end of the scale, but where I expected you to be. None looked all too happy about this. Mina, Sue, Uraraka, Koda, Todoroki, you all did well. You didn't get spotted by as many of your classmates and managed to get several photos. I'm impressed. They looked a bit sheepish, but happy, with the exception of Todoroki, who of course just nodded blankly. Shoji, Hagakure, Yamamomo, all three of you did spectacularly. Each of you got pictures of most of your classmates, only getting caught a few times. Shoji was the only photographed 3 times, Hagakure twice, and Yarozu 3 times. I'm impressed, he nodded, adding to the pride. You have great instincts for this. The class finally turned to the last 2 whose names haven't been called. Midoriya was just staring at Aizawa, while Jiro stared at him. Jiro, Midoriya, you 2 hold the top scores. Jiro, you were only photographed twice. Midoriya, you weren't photographed at all. Congratulations. The class went silent, turning to their local cinnamon roll, who smiled sheepishly. Jiro, you got 18 out of 19 photos. Midoriya, you got 19 out of 19. You both did spectacularly. No one missed a slight pride in their teacher's eyes. How the fuck did you cheat, you worthless nerd? Bakugo gripped, hands popping in the direction of the greenette, who squeaked and jumped. Huh? You must have cheated, Bakugo scoffed, as if you were stealthy. You're a clumsy little... Bakugo, that is no way to speak to your classmate. Ida attempted to interject, but Jiro spoke up. No, I want to know, too. Several glances turned to the greenette the way he paled under all the eyes. I couldn't hear or see you. How did you cheat? Midoriya looked horrified at all the attention, frantically waving his hands as he tried to gather words into something cohesive, until Aizawa spoke up. Bakugo, Jiro. His voice was sharp. You cannot blame Midoriya for your shortcomings. I could track you through the entire test. Midoriya did not cheat, not once. He just played smart. The teacher looked confused about it too. I'm surprised he didn't get spotted, but that's no reason to accuse your classmates of cheating the assignment. Midoriya started. I kept moving to keep my heart rate up so you wouldn't be able to track me based on my heartbeat. After a certain distance, your accuracy goes down, Jiro, and then I calmed down to get it slow where I could take a picture of you while you were distracted looking for me. Jiro paused, blinking at him. And other than that, I'm pretty good at being quiet. The classroom sat in stunned silence. Thank you, Midoriya. Now get changed. We'll be discussing this in class tomorrow. Despite it, several stunned eyes moved back to the greenette had been. Where did he go? Denki stumbled, looking around. What the hell? Midoriya was gone. He'd already made it to the locker room. Two. It was strange, Aizawa decided. All Might and Midoriya were close, yes. He could see the similarities. It was almost uncanny. But Midoriya pulled that disappearing trick a lot, and Aizawa began to notice. And more strikingly, Yagi pulled the same trick a lot. The only one who couldn't catch the mid-trick? The other. It was even worse than when they both decided to disappear. It was, however, hilarious when they called the other out. The class had been ending, as the bell just rang. Aizawa's eyes moved to Midoriya's seat, who had, as usual, disappeared, of course. Ah, young Midoriya, perfect. I was just looking for you. Aizawa's eyes snapped to the door where Midoriya stood. Hadn't he just looked there? And Yagi just smiled, holding up a bento. I was hoping to discuss one of your recent assignments. Of course, Yagi-sensei, coming. A blinding smile, and the man was rewarded. It made him laugh as the two headed out. How had Midoriya gotten across the room that fast? Aizawa had been looking up and down for Yagi. The man had accidentally taken some of his ethics assignments, searching the school with a fine-tooth comb with a hiss. He couldn't just call out to the man. Ah, hi Aizawa-sensei, Midoriya greeted, appearing around the corner. Aizawa held back his instinct to jump at the appearance of the greenette, before sighing. Midoriya, have you seen Yagi? The green eyes blinked at him in surprise. Before he looked around, Aizawa's eyes followed, not spotting anything. Yagi-sensei, Midoriya disappeared for a moment, and suddenly Yagi and Midoriya were right there. Oh, hi Aizawa-san, what can I do for you? Aizawa stared in confusion at what had been empty air, in awe and horror. What the hell? You took my assignments. The man blinked before digging into his messenger bag, pulling out a familiar stack of papers before smiling sheepishly. Oh, my apologies, Aizawa-san. Here. The man handed them over. I thought they were my papers from Nedzu. The stack was quietly placed in his hands. Apologies, but I'm headed off to Recovery Girl. I shall see you in Heroics? Yeah, Aizawa spoke dumbly, staring at him. He looked down at the papers, and then he raised his head. Both Yagi and Midoriya had disappeared. What the fuck? 3. Yamada-san. Yagi smiled. I apologize, but could you do me a favor? Hisashi flicked his gaze over to the teacher. What can I do for you, Yagi? You have fought Aizawa-san, yes? Hisashi raised an eyebrow. Had he fought his husband? Of course, he had. He was his primary training partner and his husband. Yeah, what about it? Normally young Midoriya and I spar, but I'm not quite feeling well. But he's been really excited about a new move. He's stuck on it and he keeps tripping into walls. The man confessed with a chuckle. Would you be willing to spar around with him or two? Oh, the little listener? Hizashi perked up a bit more. Of course. He was quick to get to his feet and grateful for an escape for his paperwork. Lead the way. I could use a break. It didn't take long to make it to the gym where Midoriya was warming up. Hizashi was already in his hero costume, so it would be fine to fight. Hey, little listener, he greeted the green child, who smiled at him in a blinding way. Hizashi couldn't help but return it wholeheartedly. I heard you were looking for a sparring partner to test out new moves on. Yeah, Yamada-sensei. The boy smiled, pumping his fist in the air. I would ask my classmates, but better a member of staff if you're trying something out, Hizashi fondly huffed. The kid may have been reckless and self-sacrificial, but when it came to others, he was nothing but cautious. Better to fight a hero than a teen. Good idea. Want to give me a rundown of rules? No quirks, no headshots, no privates, no eye hits. The boy listed off, and Hizashi paused. Headshots? Yeah, normal sparring. But why did the boy specify the other two? Yeah, I usually don't fight like that anyway, little listener. Hizashi trailed off, suddenly wary. A creeping dread grew in his spine as they entered the sparring area. Play by tapping out or incapacitation, Midoriya chirped delightedly. Hizashi moved to the other, not entering the fighting stance just yet. That wasn't until Midoriya's smile shifted. There was no mistaking it. At one point it had been blinding, shining star. Sometimes so utterly beautiful and blinding, you'd have no choice but to be drawn to it. Then it became shy as they entered the ring, muted but still kind beyond what Hizashi sometimes thought was possible for a person. Then, it didn't feel anything like a smile. Too sharp, too many teeth, and too vicious. Like a promise to rip out his throat with the canines and eat his child. Hizashi fell into stance on pure instinct, his mind pounding to run, and go. Midoriya dove forward. Hizashi had seen the green bean's fighting style time and time again. It was a mirror of almost every daylight hero out there. The specific brand of fighting taught to daylight heroes was aptly named flutter fighting, due to its showmanship and honor with the way they fought. No dirty tricks, you fight with honor. That was not the case. Before he could think, Midoriya's foot was diving into his shoulder, right at a pressure point, forcing him to duck and dodge to the side, with a now limp right arm. The boy didn't even give him time to breathe, diving back for an attack and kicking Hizashi's ankle out of the way. Hizashi barely managed to dive back from a punch, just to get kneed in the damn chin. Midoriya was fighting like a rabid animal. It felt like fighting someone who'd lived in the slums, fighting the vigilantes who targeted the darkest of the world. It was undeniably beyond pure purge fighting, the method preferred by underground heroes. It was damn nether fighting, language of vigilantes. Hizashi was about to call for a stop when Midoriya dived again, but he was cut off. Midoriya, my boy, stop. Hizashi felt a huge relief wash over him. Thank Kami. Yagi saw something was wrong with this. You didn't perform the move correctly. If you do it incorrectly, you could end up dislocating your knee. Come here. Hizashi's jaw hit the proverbial floor, as Midoriya's smile disappeared into a kitten-like curiosity as Yagi walked over. Try the move on me, slowly. Midoriya obliged, following slowly, raising to kick the man in the throat, slow enough that it wouldn't make an actual impact. Pause. Midoriya did so without complaint. Yagi moved around before smiling. There it is. Your right hand. It's making your leg slightly too low. You don't want to accidentally end up knocking someone in the jaw and making them bite their tongue. It's an easy way to bleed out and die, my boy. Choking on blood to death would be a really cruel way to go, Midoriya conceded. All right, now try that again. Full speed, 10 times. At me. Go. The boy obliged. Yagi caught his foot. It, in the same stance, had been fixed, with Midoriya's right hand now curled around his left as he kicked. When Yagi was satisfied, he nodded and stepped back. All right, go ahead. Prepared, Yamada-san? Hisashi felt his blood go cold. He was screwed. When he arrived back at the teacher's lounge, he was covered in bruises, and his arm still didn't have feeling. He didn't care. He swiped at his husband's sleeping bag, earning a scowl, before tucking in the corner in the room. Safe at last. The words were heard from a few in the room as he spoke it a bit louder, addressing them directly. Next time anyone says Yagi or Midoriya need a training partner, I am not doing it. He let his English slip into his words. Okay, I think I'm going to stop there for this one. We're about halfway through the fic. Part 2 will be posted pretty shortly after this. I just didn't want it to all be in one part. Anyways, that was Raised in the Underground, written by Social Nobody, read by the Viridian Ghost. It's the Viridian Ghost signing off. See you guys next time.